Kristen, it's really nice to see you again. You came into Radio 1 last time round with Robert to talk about Twilight. Before we start, great soundtrack, so I've made you a mixtape.
Oh, thanks.
I went through my iTunes and picked out tunes I thought you might like.
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you.
So, yeah. What type of stuff are you into yourself, music-wise?
A lot of this. I love Bon Iver and Cold War Kids. Band of Horses is one of my favorites this year. Yeah, as I've always been obsessed with.
Did a good job then.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, wow, thank you so much. Bat for Lashes?
Yeah.
Have you been like tapping into like...
Not at all. I just kind of, I don't know. You make guesses, I suppose, to what people like listen to and stuff like that.
Well, thank you.
Well, I'm glad I did the right thing. New Moon. Absolutely loved it last night, but it really feels like you've really kind of moulded Bella in terms of, I've read the books, and in terms of that character coming to life, it feels like you've really moulded that character. And I wanted to ask if there's much of you in her, if there's, if you see any of yourself in her.
Yeah, I see a lot of aspects in Bella that I'd like to be able to be more of. I think, I think, and I think that's why most girls really love her too. Is that she's an odd mix of things. She's got a very strong sense of self, but she's entirely awkward and self-deprecating at the same time. And I think a lot of girls can relate to that. And she makes her decisions, as most women do, based pretty much solely on her gut instincts, and doesn't get too wrapped up in... she gets very wrapped up in her own head, but she follows her heart and sort of just ignores all of the really conflicting feelings that she has. And I think that Bella really grows in New Moon. I think she becomes the woman that she actually ends up being in the rest of the series.
She kind of really, she's really wise and old for her years, you kind of feel as well, in terms of, maybe because of the way she's grown up and the home life not being that kind of stereotypical home life. And she's really sort of kind of almost looks after her dad in a way as well. But I wanted to ask about the whole kind of Charlie thing about, the overprotective father. Doesn't matter who she brings home, no one's going to be quite right.
Right, except for Jacob.
Yeah. The whole Team Jacob, Team Edward thing, there's a little bit of debate amongst the girls. We have the conversations in the office about it.
Do you?
Yep.
Get out.
Yeah, totally. It's like what everyone's like, you Team Jacob? There's T-shirts being worn and everything. I want to ask you about Taylor in the film, because he's brilliant in this film. He really is. He's really, and there was the whole thing about whether or not he was going to do it and all that kind of thing. And you must have been really pleased because you already had that relationship from the first film with him, that he was taking on that role. But in terms of the physicality of him, it's like he's had to work for that.
Yeah, really very hard.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's obviously what you notice first, is like a complete physical transformation. But if he didn't have the confidence beforehand to do it, then it wouldn't have happened so fast. He really was the guy. He knew he could do it, and that's the only reason he was able to. And plus, I was so shocked, even like watching him walk around the set of New Moon, as opposed to watching him walk around the set of Twilight.
Yeah.
Totally different person. I mean, not a different person, the same person, just finally, really he really grew into himself. He's like one of the most steady, good guys I've met.
There was almost a kind of a real kind of gasp in the auditorium last night when he did the whole "It's only blood, Bella," and we all went,
Yeah.
Whoa! It was amazing. You must, genuinely, when you could see the response in your face when you were like, "Whoa! All right, put it back on, Jacob. Too much." The public have really just embraced this whole saga, and I think a lot of that's down to Stephanie's writing as well in the books, which I just think is incredible. It just draws you in page on page. I find myself, when I finished New Moon, I just was walking about trying to read it because I didn't want to put it down.
Yeah, I know, me too.
It's when you first read the books and stuff, did you feel like that it really drew you in, and is that kind of part of the reason why you took all this on board? Yeah, because it's so... I mean, as much as the material is really intimidating because of the heightened emotion. I mean, they're all emotions that we can all relate to as a girl, as a teenager, and then I think also just anybody who's not a total sociopath. It's a very fundamental story. I mean, it's about love. It's about like what we live for. I found that because of the first-person narrative, because you're so in her head, that
it was going to be really easy to play, because it was like, anytime you're not sure about like what you're thinking or where you're going, just go back to the book, and it's literally detail for detail what you need to be doing. The difficult part was feeling emotions that are set in an unreality, feeling emotions that you're told you couldn't ever feel this. You could never feel as gutted by a boyfriend as she could by this vampire.
Yeah.
So I was always maybe feeling like I wasn't doing enough, but I feel like that with every movie I do, so.
Beating yourself up about it too much.
But I what?
You're beating yourself up about it too much. You kind of constructive criticism on yourself.
Yeah, totally. No, it's a good thing. I mean,
yeah, but it's interesting now reading the books, because obviously from seeing Twilight, New Moon, whenever you read about Bella, you have you in your head as to that character now and stuff. That must be really nice for you, the fact that you're a fan of the books now, and that all these people, you are Bella to so many people.
Right. Geez, that would be the hugest compliment. I mean, if anybody actually reads these books picturing me, I don't even know, that might very well be very not true. I feel like the cool thing about the books is that you picture, if you're a girl, you sort of picture yourself. Mm. I think that's why people have taken to it now.
What about the whole, the only way to describe the way that it has been embraced by a real majority of age groups, predominantly, teenagers and stuff, but it's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you had no idea this was the reaction it was going to have when you signed up.
No. You never make a movie because you think it's going to be cool and popular. It's great that so many people can love something that is so personal to us, because as actors, you're always sort of fighting to get across what you're... I think the only reason people make movies is because we care to understand more. We care about people, and it's all about learning about yourself. And this was just a really great opportunity to do that, as every other movie I've done has been. And thankfully, this was the first time... Not thankfully the first time, but luckily this was the first time that it actually reached.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of the movie or me. It's the story. It's definitely Stephanie's book, but I'm so lucky to be a part of it.
It's it must be a kind of crazy world to, we can only look from the outside but you're actually living it. It must be just kind of crazy the way that your every move is kind of documented almost.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it's not every move. If every move was documented, then there would be no
lies.
False impression. Yeah, exactly. But it's all these isolated little moments, so it looks so much crazier from an outsider's perspective. Okay. I don't live this like asinine, out of control, like manic, crazy life. It's actually it's so focused on the work.
Yeah.
I find that in the last 2 years, even though I've done 2 movies in between, I haven't promoted them yet. So when I wasn't working on Welcome to the Rileys and The Runaways, I was working on New Moon or Eclipse, or I was promoting New Moon or Twilight. And so it's this part of the job is just as interesting, because think about it. I get to talk to sometimes 75 people a day. I have a 5-minute conversation with 75 different people about something that I put everything I have into for the last 2 years of my life. So it's like it's gonna make Breaking Dawn better, because I get to talk about it so much in interviews.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that, because so many times, I'm in this position where people can't be bothered to enthuse about what they're involved in. So to have someone who is so passionate about it.
I think it's just because it's scary. I think it's because they want to say the right thing. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but I've gotten so much more comfortable with it, because I've realized that I just have to stop worrying.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you have the resources. You made the movie, so it's. I think it's people just overthink it, and they're very aware of people's expectations, and they want to meet them. And as soon as you're thinking about something you don't want to do, you sort of end up doing it.
You've done Eclipse already, is that right? You finished filming the next one? Wow. And am I right in thinking that you graduated whilst you were kind of doing a graduation scene in Eclipse?
Yeah.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know, I was a little late. I was 19 when I graduated high school, but I did a lot in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a trip. I was actually, it was the week that I finished my last assignment, and I got all my credits, and I made an extra go backstage with me and take a picture in my cap and gown, the extra that gave me my diploma, and I shook his hand and looked at the camera. So I have my own little graduation photo.
Right. That's
pretty
brilliant.
Sweet.
It's great that you've been involved in the acting business from a very early age. Into the Wild, I absolutely adored that film. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you mentioned some other films as well. You played Joan Jett in a film, is that right?
That's right.
That's great. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. It's a really large concept for me to fit in my little pea brain, but me too. Yeah.
Were you singing? You doing the whole? Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, and Dakota Fanning plays Sheree Curry, who is the lead singer of the Runaways, and she sang as well, and she was like amazing. I mean, we really see a different side of her.
We heard you sing and play guitar in Into the Wild, obviously, which is pretty good. So this is a little hidden talent that you have that you want to let more people know about?
No, definitely not. It's not a hidden talent. It's something that I really, really worked so hard on to even come close to. No. So I'm not going to be like releasing an album next year.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask you if that was going to be the next thing. No chance. Mm-hmm. Listen, thank you so much for chatting to us, and congratulations on another great film. Thanks.
Cheers.